Imagine this. You open your phone for 5 minutes and somehow end up buying something you didn't plan to buy. A gadget, clothes, a subscription, something small. You tell yourself, it's not that expensive. But later, sometimes hours later, a quiet thought shows up. Why did I even buy that? This isn't a failure of intelligence. It isn't poor discipline, and it isn't random. It's psychology. Every unnecessary purchase is the result of predictable brain mechanisms interacting with a marketplace engineered to trigger them. And the danger isn't the single purchase, it's the loop. A loop where anticipation feels rewarding, ownership feels underwhelming, and the brain learns to chase the next hit of excitement instead of actual value. Today, we're breaking down the psychology behind buying things you don't actually need, using behavioral science, neuroscience, and economic research, not to shame spending, but to understand the invisible forces shaping it. Because once you see the mechanism, you can step outside of it. Let's start with the moment right before you buy something unnecessary. Not the click, not the purchase, the anticipation. When you see something appealing, your brain releases dopamine, not because you own the item, but because it predicts a potential reward. This is critical. Dopamine is not the chemical of pleasure, it's the chemical of pursuit. Your brain is saying, something good might happen, pay attention. This anticipation spike feels like excitement, motivation, and urgency rolled together. And modern shopping environments are optimized to trigger it repeatedly. Limited time offers, countdown timers, social validation, curated imagery. Each signal tells your brain, act now. But once the purchase is complete, dopamine drops. Ownership rarely matches anticipation, and that gap creates a subtle dissatisfaction. Not enough to feel dramatic, but enough to push the brain toward the next purchase. This is called reward prediction error, the difference between expected reward and actual experience. When expectations overshoot reality, your brain doesn't stop seeking, it doubles down. Which is why unnecessary spending isn't driven by enjoyment, it's driven by pursuit, and pursuit is addictive. What makes this powerful is that the brain doesn't evaluate purchases in long-term financial terms. It evaluates them in emotional microbursts: novelty, identity reinforcement, social belonging, momentary excitement, all of which activate survival-era circuitry that evolved to prioritize immediate gains over abstract future consequences. Your brain is wired for short-term reward. Modern commerce is wired to exploit that wiring. And when those systems meet, impulse buying stops being a character flaw. It becomes a predictable behavioral outcome. Understanding that shift, from moral judgment to mechanical awareness, is the first step toward control, because you can't interrupt a loop you don't see. Next, we'll examine how marketing doesn't just sell products, it sells emotional narratives that attach identity, status, and belonging to ordinary purchases. Marketing psychology: why your brain says buy before you do. Most people believe they make purchasing decisions logically. They compare features, they think about price, they weigh usefulness. But behavioral research shows something different. Emotion decides first. Logic explains later. Modern marketing is built around this reality. It doesn't try to overpower your reasoning. It moves underneath it, shaping perception, urgency, and identity before conscious analysis ever begins. To understand why unnecessary purchases feel so compelling, we have to examine the psychological triggers engineered into modern shopping environments. Not manipulation in a cartoon villain sense, but systematic design that aligns with how the human brain evolved to evaluate opportunity. Let's break down the major mechanisms. Scarcity and urgency, the fear of missing out. Humans evolved in environments where scarcity was survival relevant: limited food, limited shelter, limited opportunity. Missing out carried real consequences. That wiring still exists. When marketing signals scarcity, phrases like "only 3 left," "sale ends tonight," "limited edition," Your brain interprets it as a resource threat. A subtle alarm activates. If I don't act now, I lose. This isn't deliberate reasoning. It's a fast, emotional shortcut designed to prevent hesitation in high-stakes environments. The modern problem is that most consumer goods are not survival critical, but the brain responds as if they are. Urgency compresses decision time, and when time pressure increases, analytical thinking decreases. The purchase becomes about avoiding regret, not evaluating value. You're no longer asking, do I need this? You're asking, what if I miss this? That emotional reframing dramatically increases impulsive decisions. Anchoring, how prices shape perception. Your brain doesn't evaluate price in isolation. It evaluates it relative to context. This is anchoring. If you see an item labeled was $200, now $79, your brain encodes 200 as the reference point, even if that original price was arbitrary. The discount feels like gain, and gain activates reward pathways. Importantly, anchoring influences perceived fairness, not actual affordability. A product can still be unnecessary or outside your budget, but the comparison creates the illusion of smart decision-making. You feel like you're saving money, even though spending is still occurring. Anchoring transforms "I'm buying something" into "I'm winning something." That emotional shift is powerful because the brain is highly sensitive to perceived gains, even hypothetical ones. Social proof, the safety of the crowd. Humans are social learners. For most of their evolutionary history, copying group behavior improved survival. If many people adopted a behavior, it likely carried value. Marketing activates this instinct through signals like ratings, reviews, bestseller labels, influencer endorsements, user testimonials. Each cue reduces perceived risk. The brain interprets popularity as validation. If others chose this, it must be safe. Social proof bypasses independent evaluation. It replaces "is this right for me" with "others chose it, therefore it's acceptable." In digital environments, this effect intensifies. Large numbers amplify perceived legitimacy, even when those numbers say nothing about personal usefulness. You're not just buying a product, you're aligning with a group decision, and social alignment feels psychologically secure. Identity signaling, buying who you want to be. Some of the strongest impulses aren't about utility, they're about identity. Products are framed as symbols of productivity, status, creativity, discipline, belonging to a professional or social tier. Status consumption isn't inherently irrational. In some contexts, signals influence opportunity. Clothing can affect professional perception. Tools can enhance productivity. But when signaling becomes the primary function of spending, problems emerge. The purchase stops being about utility. It becomes about perception management. You're not buying for use, you're buying for visibility. And because status is relative, the signal loses impact as others escalate. This creates an arms race dynamic. Upgrades chase upgrades, and stability erodes quietly underneath. Lifestyle inflation. When income rises, expenses follow. Many people assume that higher income automatically creates financial security, but behavioral data consistently shows that spending tends to expand with earnings. This is lifestyle inflation. As income increases, housing expectations rise, vehicle standards shift, vacation habits expand, social circles change. Each adjustment feels incremental. Each one feels deserved, but collectively they absorb surplus cash. The psychological mechanism behind this is hedonic recalibration. What once felt like luxury becomes baseline, and once baseline shifts, reducing it feels like loss. Loss aversion, the tendency to experience losses more intensely than gains, makes downward adjustments emotionally painful, even if they're rational. So spending locks in at higher levels, not because of necessity, but because the new normal feels non-negotiable. Cultural narratives, success as consumption. Beyond peers and income, broader cultural narratives shape expectations. In many modern economies, success is visually expressed through consumption, home ownership,
upgraded interiors, new devices, experiential spending. Advertising reinforces this narrative, but so do entertainment, social media, and even workplace norms. Achievement is often displayed through acquisition. The subtle message becomes, if you're progressing, it should show, and showing typically means spending. This creates pressure even when no one explicitly demands it, because identity and success are intertwined. Resisting unnecessary purchases can feel like resisting progress itself. The digital environment. Constant access, constant triggers. Historically, shopping required physical effort. You traveled to a store, you navigated aisles, you waited in line. Friction limited impulse. Today, access is continuous. Products are presented algorithmically based on browsing behavior, past purchases,